Of the Benton County Board meeting, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Beth.
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Heinen,
Here.
Commissioner Gopinski,
Here.
Commissioner Pop.
Here.
Approve or amend the agenda. Monty, you have anything?
We have no changes.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carries. County board meetings are broadcasted live. Bear with me for a minute here. There we go. And video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that the viewers can hear you. County Board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board's chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off the cell phones or turn your phones to vibrate, please. Thank you. Open forum, anybody out there? Thank you, Beth. Wow, we have quite a few, all right. Good deal. Then I gotta be able to read their name first. Ken
Schwinghammer?
Schwinghammer? Yes. You're first. Go up to the podium, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate this time to be here. I've had a dispute going on. We've been dealing with probably 30 years or more. I have the property next to Waste Management, which was originally Recomp, and before that it was the transfer station and whatever. About 4 years ago, I had a renter that decided he was going to get into the used tire business, and he never proceeded to get there's a MPCA license to collect the tires, to transport the tires, to sell the tires. You need to have a sales tax number and so on. He has none of these, and there was a dispute between him and myself in December of 2019 where he had moved a bunch of tires to a part of a parcel. He rented a part of a building from me. Then he started to move outside the building. When on vacation, he decided to move to the back half of my property, which was never intended for him to use in any way. At that point, I had him served with eviction notice in December of 2019. He obviously did not leave. So I went to the court system the 3rd of March of 2020. The 10th of March, COVID kicked in, and here we are. So September of last fall, 2021, I had a court hearing, and at that point, he was to be off the front of the property in the building by the end of September, and all his tires removed by the end of November. That did not happen. So I'm caught now in between the county and the city of St. Cloud on who has jurisdiction and what rights he has. So far, it's determined that he doesn't owe me rent, and the tires aren't supposed to be there. So I guess I'm just opening an old pot and stirring it. So I just thought I'd let the county know what's going on, and I'm going to speak to other people here. Sheriff Heck is here. We have had conversations about it. I'm assuming I'm going to be able to vacate the building, and I'm sure you don't have. I don't have a question. You don't have any answers for the question. I just want to bring the county up to date in that where the city takes jurisdiction over the county or the other way around. So I'd just like to have open discussion with you gentlemen at any time, or if there are any departments I should be talking to rather than the county board, I'd appreciate that information. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roxanne, is this something that you take up with your board? I mean, with your
So
area?
it is actually a city issue.
So we're throwing it back on the city?
It is a city issue. I think where he's thinking the county comes in is it's in the court process, but it's not with our department.
Is there any way we could help it along? No.
Mr. Chair.
Well, we'll check into that.
How many tires are we talking about?
5,000, maybe a little
Oh,
more.
boy.
Oh. I think I know exactly.
I know it is, yeah. Well, we'll try to help and assist and look into it for you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Spence, Berkeley.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, past commissioner.
Yeah, this is quite a different view than I'm used to. I don't think I've ever been up on this side before. But I just came this morning just to make a few comments about, recent elections and the whole election process and how it affects, commissioners. And one thing we found out in the last few elections is it's come under a lot more scrutiny than ever before, a lot more finger pointing and accusations. And commissioners, I noticed over the years, we never really had a real big role in it. We just didn't play that role. That was left up to the election official, which was the auditor's office. But I think it's more important that in these times that you really understand the process of what happens, know how mail-in ballots are handled, know the chain of custody. If you have drop boxes, make sure they're secure and got a camera on them, and those types of things, and how are military ballots handled. Because the first ones that get questioned on this, of course, is our county board members. You seem to be the go-to for everything, so it's good if you really know that. And that's just due to a lot of recent events in the last couple elections. And so if you get a system, you're gonna have to meet with your local officials here and understand the system. And so you got an idea to answer the questions. And you also have a really unique situation. I've never seen this before. All the years I've been around, where you have 4 people running for the same position in the same office, and 2 of the people are in the process of helping count the ballots. So you've got to be real careful here and have an open process so that everybody feels that everything is above board and handled with utmost care. And it did, for all the voters, all the residents of Benton County to see that this is the right process. They've got it covered. There's nothing going on here. And also for the candidates running, because these primaries can be very low voter turnout. And in fact, we have about a 20% turnout, and I don't even know what's going to bring them out this year, probably not much. But they can literally be decided by just a handful of votes. So we have to, I think it's just good business if you have a little better understanding than I did, when I was a commissioner. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Spence.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Spence.
Spence. So Dwayne, we're moving you guys under Chris's item, okay?
Yeah,
Because that's where you guys wanted to
I'm at
talk
that age
about.
where I just sign in for everything.
Yep,
Like-
I got it. I'm just telling you, we're moving you down the line here for a couple of minutes, so
That's
bear
fine.
with us. Okay, that's all I see on the open forum. Next, we'll go to the consent agenda. Consent agenda item 1 through 12. What would commissioners like to do with that?
I'll move approval.
Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt you, Commissioner Kapinski, if I could pull item number 7 first, please, for further discussion.
I'll move approval of items 1 through 6, 8 through 11.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on those items? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Johnson,
Mr.
item
Chair,
7.
thank you. I did invite Heather, or actually she was going to be here this morning anyways, I believe, but I did stop and talk to her this morning and was just interested if she could maybe come up before us and just kind of explain item 7. I know it's not something that we typically see or deal with, so if you'd be willing to do that, I'd appreciate it. And Brian, you're certainly welcome to throw your 2 cents in too. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm presenting the application for local disaster abatements and credits for taxes payable year 2022 for Rose Marie Oswald. She's the owner of parcel 03.000479. I understand that they had a fire due to their wood furnace. It was an unintentionally set fire. And it did cause quite a bit of damage to the structure. Brian Folden, the county assessor, is going to come up. He viewed the property and he can explain to you the condition it was in after the disaster.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Watch your head.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yeah, so there was a fire on February 27th, which had significant damage to the house itself. So basically, what we're asking for is the months that the property was not usable, March through December, they are not rebuilding. That's what they've told us, that they are not rebuilding the property. Part of it has actually already been removed. They're completely tearing the house down. So the value of the structure from March through December would be an abatement on taxes for payable 22. Then, once tax rates are calculated for 23, because the house was physically standing there on January 2nd of this year, so that value will still be there for 23 taxes. That value for 23 would be a credit on 23 taxes once we have the tax rates calculated for next year.
Very good.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Great, thanks for the explanation.
Yep, appreciate
Anything
it.
else to add, Heather?
So the amount of the credit that we're looking at for 2022 is going to be $494.
Thank you, Heather.
Perfect.
Brian,
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of item 7 on the consent agenda.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we got a motion and a second for item number 7. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, Monty, present the Employee Recognition Award to the jail staff.
Sure, Mr. Chair. Sheriff Troy Heck nominated folks in the jail for recognition in the first quarter under our recognition program. So I would presume, Troy, you're going to present the item for us? And your agenda item, of course, names all those folks we're recognizing here today. See Charlene is here as well. It's all yours, Troy.
Thank you. Well, as I've explained before, the nature of working in the jail is very unique and very challenging. And you'll see that in a couple ways here. First, in the fact that unfortunately, Charlene is here to represent the entire group because the rest of them are working or sleeping or in training. So it's difficult to pull them away from their work to do something like this, but we're very grateful that Charlene could be here to represent them and accept the award. As I wrote in my recognition form, the challenges presented to our jail staff were unique and unprecedented over the last couple of years. We all know that since March of 2020, life has turned upside down in every aspect and never more so than in the jail. You had jail staff dealing with a pandemic that nobody knew what to expect out of. We definitely had moments in time in the early parts of the pandemic where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get them PPE or how we were going to deal with that. Nobody was really certain as to what to expect for infection rates in our county and how we were going to fight it. And through all that, our staff persevered. They put up with I'm sure you might recall as I do, the almost hourly changes from recommendations and how to keep our staff safe. I'm being a bit facetious there, but it seemed that every time we had a plan, that plan got thrown out and we had a new plan. So there were constant changes going on back there, constant adjustments to how we're going to keep our staff safe and keep our inmates safe, and our staff persevered through all that. In addition, we had a much larger percentage of the staff, of the inmates were those that presented challenges behaviorally, both because of mental illness and because of their level of criminality. So they had to deal with these very difficult people on a daily basis. And probably most principally was the challenges we had with staff shortages. Like everyone else, we faced turnover of remarkable percentage, and we had no choice but to continue to have people working in our jail. And when you have to fill posts and you don't have people to fill them, that means overtime. In 2021, we quadrupled our overtime budget, just to kind of put in perspective how much time our folks spent working in the jail. And while that number is alarming, when you start looking at it from a financial perspective, I think the biggest thing that we need to take away is the fact that every one of those dollars represents an hour a day, a week that these folks working in our jail spent away from their friends and family and plans. It's very difficult when every day off you're expected to come back into work and do that over and over and over again. So just in recognition of everything that the jail staff have gone through as a team to make sure that we continue to keep Benton County safe by keeping people inside the walls that should be inside the walls and keep everybody safe, I nominated all of our jail staff for the Customer Service Award. I'm very pleased that the committee selected them, and I couldn't be prouder of the folks that we have working for us.
At this point, I guess, we'd like to invite Charlene up and Troy and board chair for a photo.
Oh,
And
really?
we'll make sure those folks get their certificates and other recognition.
I did get up early this morning.
Did you? Okay. The duties of board chair.
Really? No,
Surround him.
come on in. Come on in here.
She's the official photographer of Benton County.
Yeah.
All of the duties is assigned.
Yeah.
Pass down.
We'll do one more. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Thanks,
Charlene,
everybody, for the
thank you.
award.
Okay, next up, Chris Bird, presentation of Veterans Memorial Roadway signage. I believe this is where Dwayne and Gary and Joe come into play, right?
Yeah, get those cameras ready. So, as you may recall, the board approved designating CASA 4 from Foley out to the Mille Lacs County line as Veterans Memorial Roadway. So I'm pleased to announce that the signs have been received at our shop and we're ready to erect them. But I would like to have the county board present that to Dwayne Walter and his crew from the American Legion. So I guess we could have them come up and we'll do another photo op, since Beth's so good with that, so.
Chris, how many signs did we get made up?
So right now we have 2, and our intention is putting up one at the, kind of like the city limits of Foley, heading east, and then we'll put one just inside Benton County near the county line, heading west. That's how many we got come in right now. So
Okay.
there's always the option to add more, or, yeah.
Yeah, add more.
Yes,
Yeah.
Chair,
Take
may
away,
I suggest, Chris, if you add more, maybe on County 7, could go each way, that's kind of the halfway mark.
Sure, all right.
All right, gentlemen. On behalf of the county and the county board, here's the new signs we have for you guys.
Well,
Get on the other side.
That's fantastic.
1, 2, 3. One more. 3. 1 more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Appreciate you guys coming to the board and
Yep.
telling us you wanted.
Yep. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if I can, Mr. Chair, I don't need a microphone as everybody probably knows.
For the construction, right?
Again, I just want to thank you guys for the memorial. We've asked this over many times, but we've had so many compliments on that memorial out there. You know, it's one of the finer ones in the state of Minnesota, actually. I mean, I've had people literally stop and call me or see me if I'm out there. And so we really want to thank you for that. We are going to, I think Monty maybe told you, I was in last year about a sidewalk. We will be putting a sidewalk now coming from the south. So we'll have a nice entrance coming up from the walkway that Foley's putting in there. So that's really going to work out good. And this project was actually suggested by, I think I told you, a couple of people that go to our church, a couple of veterans, said there should be some roadway. And Chris and I talked about it and we came up with the roadway, which we think is good because there's Veteran Memorial Drive, you know, in St. Cloud and all that. So I don't think there's probably too many roadways, Veterans Memorial Roadways. So again, thank you so much. enjoy the rest of the day,
Okay.
and
Thank
good luck
you.
to you, Monty.
Thank you.
Wow, I don't know where that came from, but you can explain that later, Monty.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Gentlemen, yeah, thank you for serving. I know
Yes, thank you.
Berkeley served also, so
Yes, thank you.
we thank all those that served,
Yep.
served our country so we
Thank
can
you.
live the way we
Yes.
live today, so.
Amen to that.
Okay, engineer updates, Chris?
I don't have much to add. We're about wrapped up with our construction projects. They should be done paving those projects we toured on the road tour this week, with permanent striping happening this week, possibly over the weekend. Then we're going to shift gears and start going towards our maintenance patches, which is sporadic locations across the county. We've started mowing on the maintenance side, mowing that first pass that's allowed by statute right next to the road shoulder. We're allowed, the width is kind of vague, but we're allowed to mow one pass next to the roadway now, and we have to wait till August 1st before we can mow the full width of the road right away. A lot of people don't realize that's actually in statute why we don't mow the full width of the right of way yet, so.
Commissioner Pop?
So we know why, right, former Commissioner Berkeley, we know why they don't mow that roadway, right? We need that habitat for his pheasants.
That's right.
Right, very good.
I still look at pheasants differently today than I used to. One more thing, I'm still getting calls with that Virgil Hillman there on that, and he's bound and determined that that road there was never no gravel on the side of the road prior to our mill and overlay there, and I don't know how, it's too late now to, just what he's saying.
Yeah, so, yeah, I agree with him. There was, I don't know if our field personnel was confused at the time or something, but yeah, our survey shows that, yeah, there was a paved shoulder in front of his place before we did our project. The road, is about 4 inches higher, and so we have, throughout the whole length of the project, we've got a 6-foot paved shoulder, which, in our eyes is an improvement over the whole roadway over what it was before.
But I was out there this morning before the meeting, and he's got 5 feet of gravel from the edge of the pavement on his lawn, and it's the same thing as what we've seen in a couple other ones there, that they snow plow it and it's gonna be down in his ditch and
Yeah.
everything else. I don't know what else we could do there because it's kinda done.
Yeah, I really believe since we've got that paved shoulder, our snow plows shouldn't be hitting that gravel anymore. We as you know, we have nearby neighbors of his that were concerned, and they came to us, and they actually paid the contractor for that additional blacktop material all the way out there. Mr. Hellman's location, you're right. There is 2 foot on top, and then to get it sloped back down to match the slope of his ditch, you measure that a horizontal distance, it does push it out that wide. So it looks like there's a lot of gravel out there. Yeah, contractor is pulled out. We probably could have worked with the contractor while they were still paving that and do some things. So we'll stay in communication with Mr. Hellman and see what we can work out, I suppose, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, a couple quick comments, Chris. Just want to make sure we're keeping in front of us. We did our road tour last week, and upcoming cow, I'm sure to talk about.
Yeah,
Those
I'm glad.
projects.
I want to stick around for the end to set a cow at today's meeting, so.
And then
we can get down
also, just want to keep in front of us, a few months back, we talked about an update to our driveway approach policy.
Oh, okay.
And not
We
sure
could
where
put
you're
that-
at with the draft on that yet, but we want to make sure we keep that in front of us.
All right, very good.
Thank
We can
you.
Add that to that cow possibly, so.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else?
That's
Anything
all I
else,
have.
Chris? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Troy, you're up again. Presentation of the jail inspection report.
Good morning again.
Morning.
Morning.
I feel like I use this phrase much too often, but when you talk about the last 2 years, it feels more like it's been 2 decades. And when I looked at the inspection report I have before us, and then I look back at the inspection report when we last had this done in 2020, think about the changes that have occurred in our jail, it really is quite remarkable. At our last inspection, our jail captain was Susan Johnson, and our jail lieutenant was Todd Masty. And since that time, of course, Captain Johnson is retired. Unfortunately, Todd Masty has passed away, and now we have a new team to lead us. And I'm excited to see what Charlene Novak and Alyssa Lair are going to do for our to lead our jail forward. So when I look at the inspection report, the first thing that popped out to me in the comment section was the fact that, you know, we are in a high rate of compliance, high level of compliance is what the inspector used. So I'm very happy to see that. As we go through the things that they thought we could improve upon, I think it's important to note that first, we're very grateful that the DOC comes out and does these inspections for us. We take, as I said before, we take very seriously our responsibility to make sure that our inmates are kept safe and that our staff go home safe. And to have folks from the DOC that are trained as experts in all of these standards that we're supposed to meet to come out and make that review for us is very helpful to make sure that we're in compliance, that we're doing the best that we can. So we're very grateful that they come out and do that. When I look at the fact that out of 228 items that they inspect, we had 2 that were in non-compliance, I think that's extremely remarkable, and I'm very proud of the effort that Charlene has made and that our staff have made to achieve that level of compliance. I would note that out of the 2 that are noted as non-compliant, we are currently in the process of getting those within compliance, and that should be accomplished very soon. Without sounding like we're trying to make too many excuses, I would like to note that the DOC has also been under increased scrutiny, let's say. And so they are definitely taking their role very seriously when it comes to making sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And I think that is part of what you see in some of those other 8 compliance concerns, is that they're redoubling their efforts to make sure that we are meeting the letter and the intent of each one of these standards, which ultimately I think is a good thing. As I said, we want to make sure that we are in compliance, we're doing what we're supposed to do. So we will continue to work at that checklist of things that the inspector had concerns about, and we'll make sure that those are checked off the list for the next time that they come through. I would also like to note that the inspector noted that remarkably, we were able to continue making our programs available to our inmates even through the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks to the efforts of our jail programming staff. They did an excellent job to make sure that these programs that better the lives of the inmates and help reduce the likelihood that they're going to be back continued in a virtual manner throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, while also minimizing the chance that we'd have that show up in our jail. And I think the final thing I'd like to point out before move to any questions you might have is the fact that the inspector noted time has passed. Our jail is approaching 30 years old. And he noted it's probably time for the county to start thinking about what that means for the future of this facility and to start making plans for that. I know we've talked in the past about the intake area, and he's noted that again on this report. It was also noted in the report 2 years ago. So I would also encourage the board to possibly think about how we could move forward on updating that intake area. It really is an issue that needs to be addressed and should be addressed sooner rather than later. Other than that, again, I think that the jail is doing a remarkable job. Every day I'm very proud of the efforts that are made back there, and look forward to seeing the progress that our new staff is going to make and the work that they're going to do to help us keep Benton County safe. So with that, I'll pause for any questions.
Questions by the commissioners?
Mr. Chair, just a quick shout out, Sheriff Heck and Charlene. You know, when we have a comment on here, Charlene's his first year as with their inspection, and it basically says Benton County Jail operates a high level of compliance. So thank you for that. That's great work.
A lot of moving parts and a lot of new people.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah, it truly is remarkable that again, that we are able to get to this level of compliance considering all the challenges that have gone on back there, the work that has been put in by Charlene and our supervisors to bring all these new staff up to the level that we need them to be at. You know, we bring them in because we recognize that they have the skills and the raw talent, and then it's up to us to kind of refine that and make them into excellent correctional officers. And I think that Charlene and her supervisors do a really good job of that every day.
Mr. Chair, also Sheriff, if I can encourage you, obviously you know that we're moving ahead with some space need discussions, and so encourage you to keep those items in front of us, so we make sure to include those in our talks.
I will do that. Yeah, I think that's an excellent opportunity as we move forward with other space projects to maybe roll this into that.
Okay, anything else? Anything else, Troy?
That's all I have for you today.
Wow,
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you very much.
this is the first time I've ever been ahead of, on the minutes right now.
I can do a little filler on,
Really?
some of the maintenance issues.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Sure. So, we obviously look at the jail, as we update the CIP like all buildings and include projects in the CIP update. For example, next year, we plan to finish the roofing projects. Last year, portion of the sheriff's office was re-roofed. The plan is for next year is to do the rest of the jail and court facility. I believe also Jeff's gonna include there a project to clean all the ductwork, in the jail. And, anything else that comes up, he identifies, it goes in the CIP just like any other building. So I know in the past, we've replaced equipment in the kitchen, we've replaced fixtures in bathrooms. So, I wanted to make sure it's clear, we include that building just like any other building in our CIP projects. And one of the great advantages, of course, is with Jeff, he worked there for many, many years, so he understands the jail really well. So that's a huge advantage.
No doubt. Well, that took a minute.
Wasn't there some numbers that came in on that intake area too? Wasn't it like $1 million or something?
It was about, in round numbers, about $1 million to add more cells to the intake area, to construct new cells in that area. And that, of course, that estimate's now, that estimate's about 3 years old now, 3 or 4 years old. So I imagine the cost
So
would
it's
be
$2 million.
even higher now. Yeah. So, that's a good point to include discussion of it in the context of the overall space needs, so.
One of the other things that we have discussed recently is what's Mille Lacs County gonna do? And, we probably need to look at the whole picture before we move ahead on anything over there because, I don't know what they're gonna do. We got our female prisoners over there now. So,
Yeah, that would have been a question for Troy if he had any more information on that.
Yeah.
It's been ongoing
I've heard
for a
nothing new.
while.
No, I haven't
The
either.
last meeting I was in on that subject, at least what I heard from Mille Lacs folks is that they were no longer considering closing their jail and seeking
Oh,
outside boarding. But I suppose that opinion could have changed and that was a few months ago. But that's the last I heard. So obviously that's a huge step to close your jail.
yeah.
You could set the cows right now if you
I was
wanted
just
to up a
gonna
minute
say.
or two.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and
Chris
do
is
that,
here.
I
You wanna
guess.
find a date, Chris, for
I'm pretty
highway?
well booked, Chris, just so you know.
Well, I mean, it looks like after the 4th of July, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that week of, is there any availability the week of the 11th or?
Monday or Tuesday?
Monday or Tuesday would work for me.
Yeah, morning of either one of those days is fine, so I don't know. If
I would always prefer to do cows on Tuesdays because Tuesday's always my meeting days anyway.
So Tuesday.
Tuesday
the
morning?
12th
Tuesday the 12th,
At 9?
9 o'clock.
Yeah, that works.
And what's gonna be on this cow, Chris?
So we'll talk about the 5-year plan update. We can talk about entrance policy if you'd like. And I'd also want to probably do a ditch update or a ditch presentation. There's some.
How many more years of ditches do we have, Chris?
You talking county
Endless.
ditches?
Yeah, county ditches, the county agricultural drainage ditches, so.
In that process, I'd like to have a little conversation about personnel and being more public, open, public friendly over there on one of your people that work there that deals with the public a little bit. I'm getting a lot of complaints that
Okay.
So we're all set there. That's Tuesday, July 12th at 9. I have one more, Mr. Chair. Let's see here. You are invited by the Tri-County Solid Waste Commission to,
Oh, yeah.
let's see here, the so-called depackager project.
Yep.
And I believe this has something to do with food waste, the processing and handling of food waste. And it's at the St. Cloud Wastewater Treatment Facility. It's on June 28th at 1. June 28th at 1. A demonstration of the depackager project.
Won't make that.
And that's all we had. Oh,
You won't either. Sure.
excuse
No, I
me.
don't think so.
Thank you very much.
Trying to be going to our mayor.
Sorry, okay. There we go. You have something too, Bob?
Public health.
Oh,
the,
okay.
Tobacco cessation.
Oh, of course, of
tobacco
course.
ordinance.
Allow me to do this one though. So, Mr. Chair, it's time for the semi-annual years of service recognition. And typically that happens the morning of a board meeting.
Yep.
We usually start at 7. So let me offer either, what would be your preference? The coming July 19th or the 2 meetings in August? Which would be the 2nd or the 16th? What's your preference?
I'd prefer the July 19th right away.
July 19th. Okay.
That would be my preference.
So again, we would start at 7 a.m. at the sheriff's office is typically where we start. Would we start in that early? 7?
I think so.
Okay, 7 a.m. sheriff's office, and then go out to highway if there's any folks to be recognized, and then finish back here. So 7 a.m. July 19th.
Okay.
Years of service recognition. Thanks, Beth. And I know Bob also wants to ask the board to set another committee of the whole
We're
for
running
further
behind now, come on.
for further discussion of the tobacco ordinance.
Yes, I've been asked by Public Health to schedule a follow-up meeting on the last one. As we received recommendation from the last one, and now we wanted to move forward on that. And unfortunately, we have vacations and so forth, so it looks like the week of the 11th of July, that week would be the week that they are asking to see schedules.
Can't we put it with the 12th?
That's what I was
Fine it?
wondering.
Yeah.
Do we do it back to back on the 12th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're gonna want a substantial amount of time.
What's
Just to let you
substantial?
know that maybe we
What's-
do that one second.
Well, correct, yeah.
What's substantial mean?
Well, they said up to 2 hours.
Oh, well.
But I don't know if it would take that long. The last one took an hour. And we're not covering new ground. We're simply talking about the past, suggestions, so.
So we'll set that one at 10 o'clock. Chris, will an hour with you be enough?
Probably not.
Hour and a half?
We could
Really?
easily do 2 hours, probably.
You want to start a little earlier?
We could,
Chris, can we start you at 8?
yeah.
Eight to
Yep.
10?
Yep.
Bob, 10 to noon. Would that make sense?
And we'll,
Bring lunch.
see about, yeah,
We'll make lots of coffee.
we'll figure something out so
Okay.
that you guys don't starve.
Okay,
You people don't starve. You commissioners don't starve.
okay. We'll plan for that then. Chris, we're moving you to 8, and then Bob will move you to 10.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll move
Thank
for
you.
approval of the cows that have been identified. Do I need to name them off, or are we?
No, we're good.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second for a call. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. At this point in time, I will now reconvene and turn it over to, oops, sorry, lost my place here. And turn it over to our Human Services Board Chair, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Heinen. We'll call our Human Services Board to order. Is there any additions to the agenda, Bob?
No.
All right. A motion for approval on that, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. Consent agenda, items 1 through 3. What are your wishes?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. First item, Bob, approval of the contract for Lighthouse Family Services to complete Benton County's required qualified individual assessments.
I'm gonna ask Nikki to come up and talk about items 1 and 3, and then I will follow up with item 2 afterward.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the first one is the Lighthouse Family Services contract. This is a new contract. It stemming from the Family First Prevention Act that was passed through DHS on October 1st, requiring any children that are severely emotionally disturbed that are going to placement, that they need to have an outside source also do an assessment to ensure that they qualify and they're meeting that criteria. So we are asking to contract with Lighthouse Family Services for up to $6,000 a year. That's probably a pretty high number. We've only had 2 assessments that we needed to do since that October date. 2 kids that had went into placement that we needed this assessment for. This money also, DHS has a pot of money at this point that they are using right now, so when that money runs out, that's when our contract would start. So we are still referring all of our kids that need this assessment to Department of Human Services at this time.
Any questions for Nikki? Is there a motion to approve it?
I'll move for approval of the contract for Lighthouse Family Services to complete qualifying individual assessments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve that contract. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. We'll move on to item 3 then. Nikki, while you're here, please, for approval of the contract for Community Living Infrastructure Grant Program.
Perfect. And this one is the grant that Commissioner Johnson received on DocuSign to review. This is the grant that Sandy Schoberg and I had applied for through Department of Human Services for $161,800 running June 1st to March of next year. This, if you remember, it'll both take care of our outreach dollars for our worker and then also additional $25,000 to pay for deposit, first month rent, any other money that would be needed for those individuals to get into permanent housing.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
On page 13 and the other provisions, number 20.1 says no religious-based counseling. Do you know why that's in there?
I don't have it in front of me.
Here you go.
Perfect.
Take a look at mine. I think she's talking about that 20.1 right there. Here you go.
So my understanding would just be that we cannot base any kind of counseling or recommendation for clients to do any kind of religious faith-based counseling as part of this grant.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, would that be based on paying for it or just none at all?
Well, this is $161,000 toward the homeless worker. And basically what it does at that point in time is it's prescribed that we allow that person to do homeless activities, but they can't on the basis of
Religion.
They can't mandate religious type training and
Okay.
so forth.
Yep, all right.
But it can still be an option.
What?
We cannot do.
No.
Go ahead.
We cannot ever mandate that.
No.
But if a
Right.
person chooses to want to be able to do that, that's fine too. We do other things that touch into the realm of religious type training and so forth with children and so forth. So it doesn't prohibit us from doing it, it's just simply that we cannot mandate it.
Okay, can we make that more clear? Because it says no religious-based.
We can't change a
Unfortunately,
grant.
that's
That's a
contract.
state.
This is state. This is state. This
Yeah.
is not us. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. This is the state mandating this, not us.
Okay, because I think you're kind
So you'll
of,
have to go to the state on this one.
yeah, shooting yourself in the foot if you,
Well, and as.
Rule it out.
Still can be a part of it.
okay.
It just has to be driven by the customers more so than we mandate that they do this. Say we mandate them to go to Teen Challenger or something like that. We cannot mandate that, but if they wanted to, we could. That's the distinction.
At least have stewardship of your money to,
Yeah.
some basic principles about that. That's why they end up in those places in the first place, because they don't know them.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yep.
All right. Any other questions?
I'll move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to approve this contract for Community Living Infrastructure Grant Program. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, Bob, item 2, dedicate ARPA funds for recruitment and support of Benton County family child care providers.
All right, we've discussed this a couple times in the past, specifically at one of the cow meetings, but as you know, our foster care providers are dwindling away, and we had talked about the need for continuing to have foster care in our county. So we had, as we proposed before, we'd like to see if we can ask the board to earmark some money to perhaps looking at the ways that we can upgrade our licensed foster care and some of the things that we can do around building that infrastructure. So that doesn't mean we're gonna spend 50,000, but we just simply wanna earmark that much so that when, from the ARPA funds, so that we have that ability to do some building.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Kapinski?
I believe that this is a great use of ARPA funds, especially with all the daycare and childcare providers going away. My wife used to do this, and she's one of them that has went away due to not just COVID, but I think this day and age of childcare. So I will make a motion to approve up to $50,000 of ARPA funds for recruitment support of Benton County family child care providers.
Can I make that a daycare? I got a.
Daycare.
Yes.
I'll amend mine to say daycare providers.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
So would we have the inclusion of existing childcare providers, or is this just to recruit new ones?
Well, I think we would probably be able to use this as well to, if somebody's having a hard time and they might go away or something, if there's something we can
Right.
do to help build that, so, I
Sandy?
don't know.
Yes, the proposal would be we would use this money to pay for the licenses for existing providers and new providers, because we want the ones who are currently here to continue. So same with the background checks and the training that was just being covered, it'd be for both. So encouraging new ones and keeping the ones we have in, giving them the same benefit.
Also, that would be waiving the fees for the next couple of years as well. We charge.
And covering it
fees.
with ARPA.
Yeah. So-
Well, just a little concern there is that you hear people that use childcare is that, well, they had to raise the fees because the county raised this and county raised that. So if they raise the fee to the consumer and now we get some assistance to them, are we gonna see a drop in fees, or are we just gonna have a little more money to go to the child, care provider?
Well, it's not, I mean, quite honestly, it's not a lot of money we're suggesting
Right, I know.
waiving. It's just to help them get started. When you start up a daycare, you've got a lot of.
Oh, yeah, the startup cost
initial-
is unreal.
So this more helps with that, but we want to be fair to the existing ones. I don't think it will necessarily reduce their rates. It's not that big of a
Yeah.
chunk of money.
Mr. Chair, I guess that's something we can't control.
Right, and maybe we're gonna encourage them to stay in business.
Right.
Well, that's the whole idea, is to encourage them to stay in business.
I assume, Monty, no issues with putting the money aside and just using it as needed up to the 50,000 if it's over a couple years' time? It is what it is.
Yeah, it's supposed to be spent by the end of 26, so
Yep.
we've got plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think we already kind of set aside the 50,000 in our cow too, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
I don't know if we've acted on it, but that was the consensus.
I think we backed.
Consensus, yes.
It was a consensus, yeah.
I think it can work, in other words, we haven't necessarily formally committed all the resources
Yep.
for other things, so yes, I think it can work, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Anything else, Bob, Sandy?
No.
Okay. We'll adjourn our Human Services
Thank
Board,
you.
and I'll turn it back over to the
Thanks,
board chair.
Bob. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you, Bob, Sandy.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Nikki.
Next up, Roxanne, Land Service Director. Consideration continuous of a 6-year contract.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before you, we have the contract consideration with Pictometry for aerial photography. This comes up about every 6 years. They do 2 flights during that 6-year contract. And Great news, it's less this year.
Wow.
So
That'd be a first.
the previous contract was for $119,304, and this contract is $106,920. And that is just due to technology. And of course, with this contract, they, provided us a bunch of options to get, better information and data and picture quality and everything like that. But we feel that what we had is sufficient for what we need it for. And so we've decided to just stick with the standard imagery. It's a 6-inch quality, and then I spread that cost decrease out amongst all the departments, took about a 10% decrease to the funds. So I do have Scott online, Scott Zwick with our GIS, he's our GIS coordinator. If there's any technical questions about that, he did work with pictometry on that. Otherwise, I'm open to any comments, questions.
Any questions for both Roxanne and or Scott?
Mr. Chair, quick question, Roxanne, is this a one-time payment to them for the 6-year period, or do we pay it yearly?
We pay it annually, yes, annually.
All right.
Okay, what would you like to do with this, commissioners?
I will make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the attached 6-year contract with pictometry and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next. Keep going, Roxanne.
Okay, so this is the memorandum of agreement for the Mississippi St. Cloud watershed water management planning process. And I'm actually gonna turn this over to Michelle since she has been working on this quite in depth.
Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so what you have in front of you is hopefully the final version of the Mississippi Watershed St. Cloud MOU. As you are aware, we previously discussed fiscal agency, a JPE. Ultimately, what the parties agreed to is an MOU, but we did put in some protections for the fiscal agent. And the Benton Soil Water Conservation District has agreed to be the fiscal agent with these additional protections put in place. Those protections are that they would have the final choice on the consultant and final say on management of that agreement with the consultant. They would still receive a recommendation from the policy committee. The biggest concern was the financial burden that would be placed on that fiscal agent. And the other parties have agreed to do cost sharing of those potential additional costs. That would be if the consultant didn't perform thoroughly on the agreement, if they breached the agreement, then the parties would come together, agree on a course of action, and then they would agree to share those costs. So those were the provisions that were added in to add some protections to the fiscal agent. So we are still waiting on clarification of one sentence in this agreement, and that is allowing the Clearwater River Watershed District to adopt the plan as supplemental versus as the full plan. So they were hoping to have some word back to us by yesterday. We haven't heard anything, but ultimately the agreement may have that sentence removed, or it will be in there and then you guys can approve it. So what I am actually recommending today, if you don't have any comments or concerns about the agreement, that you continue this hearing or continue this discussion until July 5th, when you should act on it at that point. Did you have any concerns regarding the agreement?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, Michelle, obviously you're comfortable with where MCIT was going to be involved in this. If you could share just a little bit about that discussion.
Yeah, so we did speak with MCIT. I did speak with Paul, who I believe we deal with on a regular basis with Benton County. And he indicated there wouldn't be an additional cost for insurance for the fiscal agent. It was just important to make sure that the duties of the fiscal agent were clearly identified in the agreement. And we have definitely spelled those out throughout the agreement. So who's responsible for what and what the expectation is.
Oh.
So yes, we did have that discussion with them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pop.
So on the overrun or whatever that they'd participate, do they anticipate the grant money not fulfilling the total obligation of the plan that they are concerned about that?
No, so the overrun would be with regard to if the consultant didn't complete the agreement and we had to go out and hire a different consultant and there would be additional cost that would exceed what was left in the grant. Or if we chose a course of action for breach of contract and had to sue the consultant, then all the parties would share that cost. And to be clear, for breach of contracts claims, MCIT does not cover those, and that would be the biggest issue with this particular type of agreement since it's just planning.
So I'm not sure 100% on this, Michelle, but didn't we have to change consultants on the Rum River in the middle because they left, they were gone? And I think we still ended up fine financially. We didn't have to have an overrun there. So I don't think that's a really big concern.
Yes, hopefully it will be a non-issue. It's just, of course, you always need to plan for the potential issues. And that is one that could occur. You can always have a breach of an underlying agreement and have to seek different remedies.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Michelle, are you looking for this to be tabled then, or just that it can just sit as is?
Yep, I would table it until July 5th and then act on it probably that day.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'll move to table this item until our July 5th, 2022 meeting.
We don't need a second on that, right?
I'll second that. It's part of a motion, so. Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes, so it's tabled.
Thanks, Michelle.
to Next
Michelle.
meeting in July. Next,
Michelle again.
consider the joint powers agreement.
Rum River this time.
Okay, Michelle, keep going, I guess.
Yes, I will keep rolling with these lovely one watershed, one plans. All right, so we have an agreement that has been approved by the attorneys group as well as, it sounds like the policy committee for the Rum River. And the agreement for this phase is a joint powers agreement with an entity. So there will be a board. It will be considered its own separate entity. We have received some feedback from other clients, just some cleanup, some minor details. And I guess at this point, what I'm kind of looking for is hopefully you have read the agreement. If you have any concerns, let me know. I will propose those back to the attorney group, and then we should be ready for approval on July 5th as well.
Mr. Chair. So Michelle, do you know if they have any changes in the agreement? Does it have to go back to Bowser then?
What I'm seeing currently is like someone suggested partnership for the name. It's nothing material.
Right.
And technically I think we've consulted with Bowser,
Right.
did make a couple of changes, but ultimately at this point, it's up to parties what's in the agreement. So it would not necessarily need to go back to Bowser.
And Mr. Chair, I'd kind of second on that one, Michelle, because we constantly hear that from Bowser, that it's up to the parties to come up with the agreement. It's up to the parties to work this stuff out. We're just here to.
Yeah, but ultimately Bowser has.
And absolutely, no, I get that, but I've heard multiple times, the parties need to figure this stuff out.
But yet Bowser wants the final say.
Yeah, right, typical.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, any further discussion on this item?
So we want this one tabled as well?
This was just more of
Or
a discussion
information.
item.
She said she doesn't want it tabled, Mr. Chair.
So, okay, motion to table it to July 5th meeting.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
See you in a little bit. Anything else, Roxanne? You good to go?
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, Monty. Ooh, hold it. You gotta kill time. 1 minute, Monty.
Sorry, I'm not good at that. No, this is not a hearing, obviously, we can go ahead and move to
I
it,
know.
Mr. Chair.
Consider
Johanna is gonna cover this item for us, and I believe are we joined yet by a representative from Marsh
Yes,
McLennan? Who would that be up there on our screen then?
Mindy.
Mindy, okay, so we're joined by a representative from our broker, Marsh McLennan, to help us with this item, so please, Johanna, go right ahead. There's Molly, hi, I'm sorry, Mindy, excuse me,
Mindy,
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
I'm struggling with names this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So we have the agenda item, but I'd like to just start with a little bit of background or history. We have 4 new commissioners here that are maybe not understanding what is this collaborative that this is talking about. Commissioner Pop is the one lonely commissioner left that was here then. So I just want to go back a little bit so you understand. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to read it out, making sure they don't miss anything. So Marsh McClellan, who is our broker, and that's who Mindy is here representing, they established an employee health and wellness insurance program specifically for Minnesota counties and cities. And this service is called the Minnesota Public Sector Collaborative Joint Powers, so it's MPSC. MMA serves as the broker for this collaborative, who assists with our health insurance and then our medical savings accounts such as VIBA, HSAs, and flexible spending plans, FSAs. In 2018, Benton County became a member of the MPSC, and currently there are 6 other collaborative members. If you want me, I can list those other: Lyon County, Swift County, Redwood County, Chippewa County, Southwest Health and Human Services, and Murray County. It's important to kind of explain that because of how we need to move forward with what's happening. So our third-party administrator, which we're going to refer to as Further, that's actually it's a doing business as is the Further name, but I think all employees would know that as that's who we use. They were acquired by a national company called Health Equity. Unfortunately, Health Equity decided to not administer VIBA accounts anymore. We were notified that, and immediately that affected the entire collaborative. The collaborative then asked, making sure I use the right name here. So it's MHC is the one that manages the collaborative's VIBA trust. We have our own VIBA trust, so that is the one difference. The MHC, the Minnesota Health Consortium, did a RFP on different proposals, and who won that RFP is a company called WEX, W-E-X, okay? With that, MMA has, their recommendation is for Benton County to merge our trust in with the rest of the collaborative, so we're all on the same trust moving forward. And then from there, once that's done, move to WEX along with the rest of the collaborative. So we would have one agreement, the entire collaborative, rather than having Benton County off to the side. That was the one thing that we didn't move over in 2018. From my words before I have Mindy talk, we also did some searching. I've talked to other counties. VIBAs are very difficult to manage. They have separate IRS regulations outside of that, and my opinion is that is why it's harder to find providers that are willing, and that's why our current provider decided to not move forward with using or working with VIBAs. Okay, that being said, this timeline is very tight. It takes 60 days to do this. It's dealing with a lot of money, as you probably understand. And so we're coming for you today with this recommendation without an ASA yet. We've been waiting for it. Our service agreement is not ready because it is the entire consortium it's one service agreement. So they're still working out those details. When we do get those, we will not have any redlining. I will still have Michelle read it. She can give you your opinion when we get it. But it's basically going to be, we do it or we don't. The other thing that we're looking at is that 9/30, September 30th is the last day that Further will administer our VIBA program. So 9/1 is what I'm gonna call a drop dead date. We have to have everything moved over by that date. We are shooting for an 8/1 because I don't like waiting to the last minute on anything. That is a very aggressive timeline. What I put in here is if an 8/1 deadline, I need to have the two attachments in the agenda to them today. And that was a 2-day extension in order to get this going through. WEX looks a lot like Further. They have a robust website that employees will be able to use. They have the smart debit card option, like our employees currently use. Some of the effects the employees are gonna see with this, of course, is that it's new information, new vendor. WEX does provide us with lots of employee communication templates to start setting that stuff up. There will be a 4 to 6 week blackout period. We went through this when we moved to Further in 2018, where employees won't be able to pull any money out of their accounts. But when that blackout period is over, they'll be able to submit receipts for that time. It isn't like they can't use, they can't go to the doctor because they can't use their HSA money during that time. The blackout period is just, there's no transactions. And then once it moves over, employees could actually put things in from any time from 2022. It's just that they'll have to enter that data through the WEX program instead of Further. Mindy, what did I miss?
So Hannah, I think you got it all. This morning, we are still waiting on the ASA from the Health Consortium. So as soon as we get that in our hands, it'll be over to you.
So that is one of the things that is probably, I don't like coming to you, commissioners, asking you to, asking to move forward without an agreement. But it is something from this aggressive timeline, we have to move forward. If we do not, we will not be able to have a medical savings account. They will freeze as of 9/30. The last day, if we do not move forward right now. It's just, we tried to get this, we've been working on trying to get this from, was it March? Is that when we started, Mindy?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Joanna, so has Michelle been involved in this discussion at all about
Definitely.
no redlining?
It was the second call in March, just hey, Michelle, so you know, this is happening. And I've been in contact with her a lot and I wanted to get it on her calendar so that I knew it was gonna be a quick turnaround. Unfortunately, it's gonna be way quicker than I would ever want anybody ask. And I want her opinion. I want her to talk with you when we do get it. But it'll be a yes or no. It won't be we want to change this or that or a maybe.
So then what's plan B if it's a no?
There is no plan B. Our services for our accounts would end.
So with discussions with Michelle, is she comfortable with this?
I highly doubt it.
I'm not going to answer that without being able to read it, right?
I have to ask that question, though.
Maybe, Mr. Chair, I can add, I think we can take some comfort in knowing that the other members of this Minnesota Public Health Collaborative are also moving.
Right.
Yeah.
There's some strength in numbers here,
Right.
If that helps. It's
Well,
not
in the
just-
Minnesota-
It's not just us going along.
Right.
The Minnesota Health Consortium is the whole state, and there are thousands of organizations moving away from Further into WEX.
Okay.
It's even a different process for this transformation because they're doing everything in mass volumes. So they've got very strict dates on this because they're not just moving a few hundred people, they're moving, hundreds of thousands of accounts over.
Commissioner Pop.
So, did we talk a little bit about aligning ourselves with the rest of the people in the collaborative last time too? And we just never got anywhere with it, or how?
I look back on the notes, it was actually several meetings with the board. A lot of it was, Michelle was uncomfortable with some of the language in the VIBA trust language, but Tim is normally who he's just unfortunately on vacation today, so Mindy was nice enough to step in just to help if I struggled with some of the legal stuff of it, but so we will have a few minor changes as we're merging. I find all of them to be positive from the employee aspect. Right now, if you have a VIBA account, you cannot designate a beneficiary. When we set up our trust in 2004, it wasn't something that you could do. So it's written into our trust bylaws that we cannot. When we merge with this current one, employees will be able to designate for their VEBA accounts a beneficiary. The only reason you would need to do that is if you were if you didn't have a spouse on your plan and then no longer had any dependents on your plan, if that person were to pass away, it would go back into the group's account. It wouldn't, there's no way to designate it. And there are employees that have a lot of dollars in those VEBA accounts. So I think that's the number one positive through there. There wasn't really any major differences outside of that, I redlined and went back and forth and compared and Tim and Monty and I and Jackie had 2 conversations, just making sure that this was what we thought was the best thing to do too, so.
And I think, I think it's good that we're aligning ourselves with the rest of the collaborative.
Yeah.
I just think, it took us a long time to get to the collaborative, whether it was a good move, bad move from private sector, we don't know.
You may recall that decision to join them was because we were going self-funded. That
Yeah.
was the primary driver behind that decision.
Yeah.
It was being self-funded.
So,
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
so go ahead, Commissioner Kapinski.
I'm gonna use the word assume, and I hope this doesn't come back to burn me, but I'm gonna assume that there's way arguably better eyes looking at this than we are. And with that, I would make a motion to approve the letter to further, to move our VEBA trust to Employee Benefits Trust Minnesota Services Cooperative VEBA plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the first motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Schlangen, just adjust the chair when you have a question, please.
Mr. Chair, so that would mean that the HSA and the flex spending accounts are also going to this other two? Everything's
That would be the
changed.
second
Yep,
request
that'll
I
be our
have
second
on here
motion.
is that we would move all of our accounts to them.
Okay.
Okay, the first motion. We got a, really bad.
Mr. Chair, just a clarification
I got it.
on the motion.
I got it.
Joanna, I'm understanding that the minimal disruption to the employee is 4 to 6 weeks of a blackout period, that they cannot access their HSA funds.
Or VEBA
Or
or
VEBA.
FSA.
So at that time, they're using their own dollars until they can get into it and reimburse.
Reimburse, yep.
Yep,
Reimbursed,
okay.
right.
Exactly.
Just wanted to clarify that.
They will be reimbursed. So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the first action? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second action item.
I will continue, or I will do another motion to approve the resolution to terminate the contract VEBA trust agreement with Further and Matrix Trust Company.
Okay, we got a second. Commissioner Schlangen?
Second.
You got a question now?
Oh, no.
On this one? Okay, you got that one answered?
We're ready to go.
Any further discussion on this action item? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank you,
guys all
Mindy.
for your work.
Going forward, what I'll come up with is the ASA, and at that point, I'll also be asking to move those other 2 accounts over under an actual resolution.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mindy.
Mindy.
Have a good day.
You too, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, now we'll take a couple minute recess until we go into closed session.
That would be fine. Okay. Thank you.